welcome our moderator, Steve Leslie, and our panelists Stacey Goodman, Gore Shuramani, Toan Kriya, and David Boschman.
Hey, you guys hear me okay? Welcome! Welcome, panelists! So, we're going to jump right in here. I want to make sure that we cover the great content from our experts here on this panel. We've got a great panel discussion, and basically the discussion is about future-proofing business technology. And what we're thinking about here is, with technology advancing at the rapid pace, I had a chance to sit in on multiple sessions yesterday. That's a common theme. If you look at our customers in the room today, I think one of the biggest challenges is with the advancement of technology, where do you invest? How do you make sure your operations are agile? How do you ensure that that you're future-proofing your department, your team, your organization, and your company? And that's an incredible challenge. Sometimes I know when you make a decision on projects, and I talk to a number of customers about this, how do you protect yourself from getting totally locked in? And you want to make sure you have that flexibility for the long term. How do you make sure that you're getting the return on your investment? So that's the topic of our panel discussion today. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to start at the far end with Stacey. I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump right in here. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here on my second time in Montreal, but not nearly enough, so I promise I will be back. So I have the pleasure of leading our U.S. solution provider sales organization for Lenovo. I have been in the industry for, this is my 28th year, so yes, I started when I was about 4. And it's been quite a wonderful journey. I've had multiple positions in sales over the years, but primarily they've been in the channel, so supporting our partners in various organizations. So it's been a thrill, and it's an exciting time to be in this industry. So we're glad that you're here, and we have the opportunity to speak with you all.
Great. Welcome, Stacey. Welcome, Stacey.
Over to me. All right, so hi everyone, my name is David Boschman. I'm actually based here in Montreal. I grew up in Montreal, actually on the North Shore. It's funny, yesterday I was talking to someone who grew up on the South Shore of Montreal, and if you're from Montreal, there's always a little bit of war going on from the North Shore, so anyway, proud North Shore guy. I lead our data and AI teams for Microsoft. I've been at Microsoft for coming on 4 years now. I lead our data and AI team for East and Western Canada in what we call our enterprise segment, which is our largest companies across Canada. And I've had a bit of a different career path. I studied computer science in the 90s, so I started when I was 4 as well, not revealing my age. And then moved in. I used to work with Microsoft in the late 90s, early 2000s, kind of around the dot-com boom. Then went to a variety of startups. And then about 8 years ago-ish, I went to Google, stayed there for 4 years, and came to Microsoft now 4 years ago. So it's like we were saying with Stacey, it's a super exciting time in the industry. We're seeing kind of the second wave of AI, which is incredibly amazing, all the potential. For me, it feels like the dot-com boom all over again ×2. So it's really, really a great time to be in the industry.
Welcome, David.
Morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Super excited. My first QBITS. Very impressed with the turnout, and really excited to have a lot of good discussions. I've had a lot of good discussions with you, many people already, and looking forward to the day today. So I have the pleasure of leading our compute channel specialist organization across North America. I lead teams in the US, US East, US Federal, and across Canada. And that encompasses everything compute, which obviously, as we mentioned, with the second wave of AI, it's really exciting to see now how AI and the data center and cloud solutions, how we are going to bring those together and make it easy to consume for all of our customers. Did I mention I'm from Hewlett Packard Enterprise?
You did. You need to say your name.
There you go. So let's start again. So Gaurav Sharmani from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, not to be confused with HP Inc., which will come, it will be forthcoming. Anyway, there you go, there you go. I do consider myself actually to be a Montreal native. I live in Toronto, but I did go to McGill here, so my friends in the front row all know how dear this city is to me, and it's exciting to be back here, so I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Awesome, welcome around.
Town Korea from HPI. Some of your staff may know me from our webinar, Top Gun Flight School, the guy on the webinar trainings. I've been in this industry since coming out of university, selling PCs in Future Shop. And I got the privilege to buy notebook PCs for Future Shop, and then went to AMD, one of the semiconductors, and now I help lead our mobile PC commercial division for HP Canada. So I've only known notebook PC in my life. I saw the industry adopt itself from a desktop industry to notebook industry, transition from Wi-Fi, or to Wi-Fi, transition to SSD, and now we have this new thing called AI. So I'm really excited for where the industry's headed because it's always new and ever evolving. And it's funny that we're calling this session future-proofing, which is a very tough challenge when it comes to this industry. So I'm excited to be here. It's a privilege. Thank you for having me, Steve, and hopefully we can shed some light on the discussion. Yeah.
Welcome, Talon. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I agree. It's an exciting time. I think everybody has echoed that. And we want to bring this to, it's exciting as emerging technologies. How do we manage that? So, first question for Stacy. What do you think are going to be the most impactful emerging technologies over the next number of years?
So first of all, I love this question, and no offense to my co-panelists, I'm excited I get to go first. But I want to give some context first, because you talk about the impact in the next decade. For a second, let's talk about what we were talking about a decade ago, right? We were talking about cloud infrastructure, we were talking about big data analytics, we were talking about social media, we were talking about mobile technology, and we were talking about AI a decade ago, because it's been around for decades. And we've been talking about AI in the sense of large language modeling and machine learning, and the access that it gives to people and to companies. And as we answer your current question for the next several years out, hands down, it's still AI. It's still going to be what we're talking about, and it's what we're talking about the most right now when we talk to CIOs. It's clear that generative AI is a key driver for productivity, efficiency, revenue, profit, and anytime you ask CIOs, analysts, IDC, business leaders, it's one of the top 5 things that they're talking about. But I think if you really want to know what CIOs are thinking about in terms of AI, I think you want to ask them about the 4-letter words in their business. And those 4-letter words are, what do you have? What do you know? What do you want? What do you need? What do you care about? And what do you fear? What do you fear? Right? I think building context is key to filtering through the content. And said another way, you could ask, what is your data strategy? Do you have the right employees? And are you thinking about security in all aspects of how you do this, right? I mean, we've never seen the market move as fast as it is right now for AI. So as customers, I think it's really important for you to understand your purpose and your strategy so that you can move to those emerging technologies to enable your workforce to give you an advantage in the marketplace, to retain customers, to retain your employees, and to acquire new business.
Excellent. So let's just open the discussion up to the rest of the panelists. I think AI is top of mind for everybody, and if you take it into the context of the discussion, what could you do if you're a client to look for adoption opportunities in AI? And maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll go to David, and we'll have Talon top up.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a client, I think the biggest challenge customers are looking at when they look at AI is, as Stacy alluded to it, is what can I get out of it, and how do I go about it? Right? There's a lot of buzzwords, and generative AI is really what when ChatGPT took off, that's really what brought it into the mainstream, and all the businesses are going, okay, this is great. Now AI is mainstream. This is now where I can, start using this to transform my business. How do I do it? There's the logistics behind the data, right? And all organizations will be thinking about, okay, I'm not putting my data up in a public cloud there in ChatGPT like that and giving away my IP. So how do I now take advantage of that, but keep my security, keep my IP to myself, and how can I make it so it doesn't turn into a science project, right? That's the biggest challenge, is we don't want it to be a science project. AI can't be this big monstrous thing that only your top 5 customers in the country are able to deploy. We need, as vendors, to make it consumable and bring it to every customer in this country. Make it easy. Make it easy to adapt, make it easy to deploy, and then as you go through those AI cycles of training, inferencing, and actually getting to production, finally understanding where you're going to insert yourself in that cycle. Are you going to train large language models? It's very time consuming, it's very expensive. You're better off taking some of these out-of-the-box large language models that everyone is now producing and looking at the open source code and adopting some of that, putting your data into it, inferencing solutions, right? That's really where your inferencing solutions come in, and then finally getting to deployment. So that's where you will find the most effective deployment and the most effective use of AI, when you figure out where in that cycle you'll be able to insert yourselves and for what you want to use it for.
So don't let it become a science project. And I think that's actually a very good point. And I know that when we did the customer panel yesterday, we had CIOs talking about how they justify investments. And I think the challenge is, how do you ensure that it's impactful to the organization, so reducing risk. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question. So David, we'll ask you to take the lead on this question. So what should companies do today to make sure that they can integrate these emerging technologies into their organizations?
I think obviously generative AI is kind of top of mind for everybody. I think of it in 2 large buckets. From generative AI, co-pilots, which are integrated in Microsoft Stack, Microsoft 365, a whole bunch of other products. To me, that's the new normal. Those are table stakes. Those are that's coming whether we like it or not, it's there. That should be something that we think of as the new normal, the new baseline. And so when we're being pushed, even internally at Microsoft, we're being pushed quite a bit to use the technology, provide feedback. And we're asking the same from our customers, to start using it, deploy it to different populations. You don't need to go big bang, but you should start using it, because that's going to be something that will increase productivity for everybody. We're already finding somewhere around 10 to 15 minutes saved a day, just for pretty basic things. So that's the first piece. Again, those are table stakes with using generative AI integrated into the different day-to-day products that we use. The other one is how you can apply generative AI to differentiate. And that's a much harder thing to do. What we've seen in a lot of customers that I'm working with is it's reinvigorated their data programs. And if we look back, Stacy was mentioning big data analytics 10 years ago that we were talking about. A lot of companies had embarked on a journey of creating kind of a data lake or data repository. And some of them ran out of steam, because frankly it was very hard to quantify what business benefits you'd get from putting all your data in one location, securing it, making sure it's accessible, democratized, etc. Now, with generative AI, that business benefits are coming back to the fore. We see that if we can apply generative AI on top of quality data, we get quality results. And conversely, if the data is no good, you get kind of that broken mirror effect. You're just not going to get the results that you want. So I think it's really important to start using the technology and reorganizing the data lake if that hasn't been done, creating the ability to have the democratized data, and then start using generative AI by avoiding the science experiments. And I love that point that Gaurav made. The science experiments really don't do anything for anybody. It creates this POC fatigue. People get tired, they get discouraged, and unfortunately what happens is the technology, by the time you're done the science experiment, the technology's already moved. So no one benefits from that. Really what I suggest is working on an MVP. Saying, we think we're gonna get business benefits here, let's do something very small, let's iterate, and let's quantify the benefits that we get, and then maybe do it in monthly sprints. And then see, did we get what we want? Did we fail? What could we learn? How can we move to the next one? And by focusing on those results, by focusing on something that you can actually deploy, you learn a lot faster than you would by saying, I'm going to take a step back and just see that the technology works. Because really, the technology works. There's no sense in testing that it works. That's kind of a false good idea. It's saying, I'm going to test to see if the technology works here. That should be shut aside and say, let's get the business benefits from the technology.
Awesome, thank you, David. Tom, let's go to you on this. Any thoughts? And it's interesting. The question says emerging technologies. I think that makes a lot of technology leaders a bit nervous.
Yeah.
But what other comments would you have on that?
I can just only give real examples of just came from an oil and gas conference, and that's an interesting industry because you have a lot of really talented engineers solving the most complex problems. But as an industry, it's a bit rigid and it's hard to push those barriers of what they used to do or how they did things. And integrating technology is a very sensitive topic. I had the luxury of hosting a roundtable with some very brilliant engineers in oil and gas. I was way above my league in that conversation. But I could see very quickly which company is trying to integrate and which company is scared to integrate. So I think that's the challenge that the organizations are facing right now, and it comes from the leadership side of this is a priority for us, we really want to integrate, or no, we don't want to break things because we've done it this way and it's gotten us here to this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting because again, I go back to the panel of customers that we had yesterday, and one of the things that they talked about was the easiest projects, or I shouldn't say easiest, but the ones that are less difficult to justify are the ones that reduce organizational risk. So Stacy, how would you intersect risk with emerging technologies, that decision?
I think it comes back to the prior point that we talked about where customers don't exactly know what to do next, right? They're looking for guidance and they're looking for help in this AI journey, and so that's one area I think that we can assist in. We've got our services and solutions team at Lenovo. We have a specific group that come in and sit and talk with customers and help them navigate through their AI journey because they don't know where to start. What is risk? I don't think, you don't know what you don't know. So I think this is, for us, it's not about building out a full solution stack, but it's about helping customers navigate this AI journey no matter where they are. And whatever point that is, it's okay, and it's never too late to start that process, right? We're in a consultative world, and so I think people just want help, right? How do they navigate this? And so, we've got an opportunity to sit down together and talk through what your options are.
Excellent. And we've got about a minute left on this question, but Gaurav, what other emerging technologies are top of mind beyond AI in the market today? What comes to mind for you?
So, from my perspective, beyond AI, when we think of what other technologies, you'll see there's a number of things happening in our industry right now that are causing a lot of disruption, let's say. And, top of mind being Broadcom acquisition of VMware. I've got a number of customers here. Anyone thinking about what they're going to do with their VMware licensing? Right? There you go. So, and this is something that it's not necessarily an emerging technology that I'm talking about. but it's leading to the emergence of newer technologies and a path forward. Everyone, to Stacey's point, is looking at a consultative engagement around how do I move forward here? What is my best path forward? In some cases, absolutely, I will stick with VMware. VMware has been a trusted, loyal partner to me, and I will see to it with Broadcom, we're going to move forward. Others, they're looking at alternatives. What are the alternatives? That's leading to certain solutions coming up and driving migrations, application modernization. We were talking about this 5 years ago, application modernization, DevOps, SecOps. You're seeing a recent resurgence of that again because of what's happening around us, right? So now many customers are being forced to this point where they're going, okay, well, now I really have to do something about this, right? So that is a pivotal moment in our journey right now where we see alternatives popping up, a lot of investments going into the future of virtualization from many different companies. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the next year, 2 years pan out when it comes to the virtualization estate that all these companies have. Public cloud, am I going to migrate everything to public cloud? How does that play a role? I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting time in the next year to 2 years around that.
Yeah, and I think that moves very nicely into the next question around scalability, return on investment. So VMware is a great example of that. If you've made a huge investment there and something macro happens in the industry, what do you then do? But why don't you tee us up on how do you ensure scalability with these emerging technologies and flexibility?
Yeah, this is one of the toughest decision points that you as decision makers and customers have to make, right? And my brother from another mother here alluded to that, right? Future-proofing, right? Look, I mean, we go about planning our data center environment, and typically it's, okay, I got a plan for the growth of the next 3 to 5 years, and I have to see how much am I growing per year. Okay, well, all of a sudden there's another new business investment we're taking on, and I need this much more data. And now I need to invest, and now I have to go ask for budget. Like, this is a never-ending cycle. And, this is the toughest part. How can you, in an industry that evolves as rapidly as ours, future-proof for that? It's almost an oxymoron. It's almost an anomaly, right? And so that's where you as customers have to look at, okay, where do I get the most flexibility in what I purchase? And the most options, where do I ensure I don't get lock-in, right? This is where, the apprehension around investing in certain licensing models is to ensure I'm not locked in. Nobody wants to be locked in as individuals or as customers, right? Everyone wants flexibility of choice. So when you're scaling, looking at what gives me the most flexibility of choice, what gives me the most options, whether it is in purchasing, whether it is in the technology feature set, right? So we have to look at both. When it comes to purchasing options, is it a CapEx model? Is it an operational expense model? Is it a subscription model? Do I have a choice of scaling up, scaling down? Do I have the technology available to me as quickly as I need it to be able to respond to the needs of my business? That's key there, right? So in the data center, that's where hybrid cloud models that give you that flexibility of purchasing upfront or as an operational expense become key, right? You're not locked into a certain model. You can scale up, you can scale down, and be able to adapt to the changing needs of the industry. So that's from purchasing. The technology itself, that's different, right? Now, technology itself is trickier because you have to, in your seat, think about, okay, who am I going to place my big bets on? Think of when public cloud 10 years ago was coming to Main Street, and every vendor had a public cloud offering. That eventually settled, and the cloud wars, as we called them, settled to the big three, right? And people made their bets, customers made their bets who they're going to be partnering with. We're kind of at the same place now with the AI journey. There are thousands of ISVs and vendors, and everyone's trying to take a piece of it. So now, you and the industry will settle in the next 2 years on who are the big players in this market. And part of that is going to be dictated by the innovation that they're going to offer, the stability, the support, and how they're going to be able to make it easily consumable for your customers.
Excellent. Yeah, and maybe I'm going to open this up, the build on this question, to anybody who wants to comment. And I'm thinking if I'm a customer, and obviously with all the research that our partners do, what factor would you cite as a critical factor to consider to protect against future growth? If you were to cite one thing or two things, what would those be? I'll just open it up to anybody. Stacey?
I'll say, when you talk about scale, right? You mentioned scale in the very beginning. I think scale is relative, and I think you need to take a look at your specific processes, because not everything is going to need to scale, right? Some processes may remain consistent, and that's fine, but others, may take a little bit of, Houdini to understand how those changes are coming and adapt to them in that way. But we talked about this. I think it's important to look at the 3 AI foundational models and decide what is going to work best for you. We talked about AI PC. I think we got that one kind of figured out from a personal level, the experience that our employees are going to have by using that. But then, as you mentioned, right, you're talking about public versus private, and what's going to be most important to you. It's going to be about your data strategy and what can you afford to do in terms of latency and of security. So I think those are a couple of key factors.
Okay, so scale and security. Any other factors you would consider? Any other balance?
I think for me, obviously coming from a public cloud perspective, what's important is making sure you have a good technology relationship with your primary cloud vendor. They can bring a lot of the new technology to you much more quickly than what we saw before. If you look at how we used to apply technology, it would take a while to install software, get it configured, so on and so forth. Today, there's a way to use public cloud as a vector of new technology, and then you can decide how you apply it or not at all. So I think having a relationship, developing those deep relationships with some key vendors allows you to then say, well, I'm going to rely on you to bring me kind of the latest trends, and then I'll decide if I want to adopt them within my 4 walls or if they don't fit for me. But I do think it's important to have that close partnership, to keep an eye on what's coming, and also get different perspectives coming from across the vendor community.
That's a great point. Thank you, David.
Steve, one last comment on that, and as we move forward in this whole scale conversation, there's a factor that's going to be coming up more and more in our industry, and that's sustainability.
Yeah.
Every customer I'm seeing now has this top of mind in terms of what are we doing to go green in the data center with our solutions. There are chief sustainability officers as well in many organizations. So sustainability is top of mind. So as you scale and grow, what are you doing to ensure that you hit your sustainability metrics as well? That becomes a key factor. And partnering with vendors who have sustainable solutions and are putting sustainability at the top of their list as well.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our final question here now. So, again, on the theme of flexibility, adaptability, we talked about growth. I would say flexibility, adaptability is a key consideration. Town, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I had a co-pilot prepare the response for this, and I didn't like it, so I'm going to try to make sure I use my own. No, but I joke.
Adaptability.
I joke. I had co-pilot on my phone, and the question is, will AI replace us? And we believe at HP, AI won't replace you. It's people using AI will replace people not using AI, personally. So to your question, adaptability and future-proofing, really. This is a future-proofing question. And I'll try not to repeat some of the answers that were already given. I can only understand from just having the customer briefings that I've had since January, from West Coast to East Coast, government to oil and gas to manufacturing. And some of it comes down to AI in itself is that adoption curve. Within the adoption curve, you have organizations that are explorers. They're just always trying to be leading technology. And then you have the laggards who are trying to wait to see what's going to happen with this. And adaptability comes down to that adoption curve and the priority as a leadership team in that organization. And to me, there's 3 key points. The first one would be the priority on the people. Because when you think of IT, it's always think of it as a back-end cost line, or a CapEx, or an OpEx. It's not a front-end line, sales and marketing. So you're looking at that as if that organization wants to be adaptive and flexible for future relevance, it has to become not as a back-end line item, but more of a front-end, because it's only going to give you that growth and opportunity. That's the first one, is the people and resource. The second one, you guys already spoke to scalability, but what the challenge that I'm seeing is there's a dichotomy between cloud scalability, endpoint scalability, and some organizations are not sure where they want to pivot to. Because with security concerns that you're seeing is, and again, referring to oil and gas, is they're looking at how do I do remote, off-site, large language models at significant investment oil rigs that are in the middle of nowhere. So how do I scale on that, where I can't rely on cloud, or I can't rely on connection? So that's an interesting dichotomy that's happening right now. So you have the people, the scalability, and then the third and final point I have is securing the investment you're making. So how do you secure that investment? I, as a CIO, or I, as a CTO, have now gotten approval for this budget concern. And the cost of future-proofing it's expensive, because you can't have the budget concern and try to future-proof at the same time, because as we've gone through COVID, return to office, and so securing that investment now comes down to security, and comes down to sustainability, as he spoke to, because we're seeing a lot of power usage with data centers and stuff. So the luxury of being in this role, I love the job I do, is I get to see what our BUs are doing. Sustainability isn't something that's past us. We're trying to innovate with how we use the materials even, and how we're using cooking oils into the chassis, or how we're using ground coffee with fishnets into the keyboards of the PC. So security, sustainability, those are the key things that we're trying to make sure that helps you secure that investment.
Excellent. As we, bring the panel in for a bit of a landing here, I want to spend a bit more time on this topic. And by the way, this is the last question for the panel. If there's any questions you have, and if we have time, we'll go to 1 or 2 questions in the audience. So there's a huge human element here. I think by the nature of what we do, all of us in this room, we love technology. We're excited by technology. However, when you implement technology, it causes change, and that can be painful for people. And people, I think, feel in some cases there's a lot of change fatigue. So you have the pressure from the top, innovate, adopt, drive change, but then you have this whole cultural impact of change fatigue, perpetual change. We'll start with you, Stacy. We'll work our way down. But what would your comments or coaching be on how to manage that?
Well, I think you just need to take a look for a minute at the people in your organization, first and foremost. There has been a lot of change, and there will always be a lot of change, but that human element we talked about, right, has been and will always be the driving force behind any organization. And I I truly believe that the leaders who leverage their teams the best are the ones that are always going to win. The key, though, is how do you give your people the power to make decisions that are going to drive the business forward, right? I think if you can maybe compare it to, the Greek military formation, the flanks, right, where it's supposed to be an impenetrable, line to stop any driving force, but it's only as effective as the trust and reliance of the person next to you. And it's really no different in organization. Lenovo, we have a saying, so people first, because people are our greatest assets, and I believe that at the end of the day, it's the people that matter, but it's the technologies that enable, and it's the trust that delivers, and you can't do any of that without people, at its foremost.
Thank you, Stacey. It's often been said, culture is strategy for breakfast. I think we've all heard it. To me, what that means is it's really important to foster a growth mindset. And in a lot of organizations, we see people with that fixed mindset of saying, oh, that won't work here, or it's always been done that way here. That type of mindset just doesn't work in tech. And it also creates a culture of distrust. Whereas with a growth mindset, you can embrace failure, good failure. So for example, if you tried something and learned, that's a good failure as opposed to a bad failure where you missed something that you should have known. But embracing that growth mindset allows people to grow, and then also to create that high trust factor within the organization where everybody can move along together, try out new ideas, and do it in a way that has, where you're measuring risk, and in a way where everybody feels that they can take that shot. And what that also does is it means that good ideas can come from anywhere in the organization, as opposed to ideas having to come from the top down, which often kind of stifles all that creativity that you get from the lower levels of the organization who are working with the problems day in and day out. One of the ways that I've seen that play out today with AI is even with us internally at Microsoft. A lot of people, initially when they started using co-pilots and then the ChatGPT technology, there was this initial intensity. It was like, oh, this is really amazing, this is really cool. And then immediately went to concern. It's like, oh, what if? What about that? What about that? And the way we move through that concern into kind of that productivity and amazement phase and seeing how the technology can be useful is saying, well, let's talk about the concerns, let's work through them, and let's hear the ideas out. Let's have everybody bring their voice to the table in safe space, in that psychological safety that allows you to then work through it and say, well, maybe we'll put this idea on pause, but try this other one out. So that growth mindset, I think, really is key to using and kind of ever adapting, changing landscape. Excellent. All right.
Yeah, excellent point from both my peers here. Growth mindset, really top of the list there. Yeah, I think it starts right from the top, right? As leaders, we have to set the tone. And we have to set the tone of innovation is in our culture, innovation is in the blood of this organization. And what that means is innovation in how not only we adapt to technology or how we adopt new technologies, but how we go about our day-to-day, everyday lives at work as well, right? Being change-oriented, thinking about new ways to do things more efficiently. Doesn't have to be something that's going to generate, millions of dollars, but if it's going to generate some efficiency within my team, absolutely, right? And giving and empowering your teams that luxury that, yes, think about how you can do things better. Do things better for not only yourself, for your team members, for those around you. How do we build that team relationship and extend that so that we can all do better for each other? And then, leading to newer ideas, giving them a fail fast mindset. Try things. Fail, but fail fast. And then try again. Get up and try again, right? And eliminating a fear of failure, right? That's the biggest thing. You mentioned, what if, you get into this, what if this or what if that? We want to go and move forward. Eliminate that fear of failure. Bring your ideas forward. We will fail. We'll fail fast. We'll try again. That's how vendors that come up, that provide the innovation in their technologies, that's how they operate. So as customers, when you're adapting to new technologies, or when you're trying to come up with new ways to go to market, same idea, right? You need to adapt that same mentality and bring innovation out right from the top and build it all the way through the organization.
Excellent, yeah, removing that fear of failure, change fatigue, understanding the pace of change, growth mindset. Town, you get the last word on this.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. I would change that word adaptability to flexibility. You said it earlier on for flexibility. Some of it is not within the organization's control. If you think about what we've gone through, just from a guy that's seen PC this thick as a notebook to now this, we didn't even use webcams pre-COVID. And we didn't really use video conferencing as part of the pre-COVID. But now, during COVID, we all had to do that. So that state of technology change pushed that innovation to a very teams collaboration based. No control, you had to. And then you go to the return to office. There is some dichotomy control with that as an organization. Do you make priority to retrofitting all your office rooms and all, or do you keep that workforce at home? That you have some control, but some of it is challenged with the what the staff wants. And then now you have this AI world, AI PC. So do you push your organization culture to go with this monster megatrend science experiment or not? Do you put that culture of innovation of using AI PC or not? So it's not, to be sensitive to the business CIOs and leaders, it's somewhat dictated by the environment of your industry. And so you have to be flexible with it. Just seeing the life cycle of notebook PCs from my career experience, you have to be flexible. Because we really cannot say what's going to happen 2 or 3 years from now as much as we think we can say.
Absolutely, no, that's a great point. And what I want to do now is maybe tie this up, and we'll wrap the panel. Just looking at our time here. So one of the things that we try to do at QuadBridge for this event is we want to make sure it's customer driven. The content is customer driven. This whole topic was top of mind in our customer survey that we did. So I first want to say it's been an absolute privilege, and we really appreciate all of our panelists joining us here today and all of your comments and insights. It's been incredibly helpful, so let's give a big round of applause for our panelists. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to our super host, Alvin. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.